All right, it is 4:07. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Claire, would you mind taking the roll call, please?
Chair Cantrell,
Here?
Vice Chair Ponte, Commissioner Tilka,
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Present.
all are present.
Okay. All right, at this point, is there any public comments? Okay. All right, we're going to move on, guys. Let's do approval of minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes, or would you like a moment to take a look at them? Give you a minute. Okay.
Okay.
Should I be listed as present for that meeting?
I think she listed you somewhere down there, let me see.
I see my oath of office was administered, but I was as well present, so maybe we can just add me up there.
See, yeah. Okay. Is there any other changes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
1, 2, and that's with the change. Chair Ponte,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Tilka,
Yes.
Chair Cantrell. Motion carried 4-0.
Our report's next, but I'd like to, I want to address that, but I'd like to ask if you guys are okay if we move the new business item A, RFP classification and compensation study plan forward.
Microphone.
Get moving with that, because I know that if we go, well, I'm not on. Thank you, I appreciate that. I'd like to ask if we could move the RFP classification compensation plan study forward after the HR report, so that way we can get that moving, because we'll spend probably the majority of our time going over policy, and I don't want that to interfere with any questions we have with the RFP. Is that okay with everybody?
Okay with me?
All right. Okay, so Megan, do you mind giving us the HR report, please?
Sure. I do have a couple changes from the report that is in your packet. We have a firefighter paramedic that we are going to have push in this week. I also have a planner number 2. Previously, it said it was hired. He was going to move from New Jersey and decided he did not want to do that. So we're back to square one with planner number 2. We also have our sanitation and public works technician positions that are still open. Those are just hard for us to fill, so we keep closing them and reopening them so they're fresh on Indeed. We also had a person leave in our marina, so we had a part-time marina attendant and a part-time stormwater attendant. We moved him over to full-time marina attendant, so now I have 2 part-time positions to fill as well. So we've got some stuff to do in January.
So it's a marina and a parks, is that what you said?
Marina and stormwater.
Marina and stormwater.
So in stormwater, I currently have a full-time and a part-time.
Okay, all right. Any questions? No? Thank you, Megan, we appreciate that. All right, so at this point, let's start talking about RFP classification compensation plan study, if we could. Mr. Gomez, do you want to let us know? I mean, because I know you looked at stuff. Could you fill us in on your thoughts on that before we go too
Well,
far?
you have the study on the agenda, and if you'd like to make any changes to it, be happy to proceed. But it's just a standard RFP for the city issues. This one's specific to getting a compensation study and as well as to look at the job classifications and also whether positions are in fact properly classified relative to FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Act, as amended.
Was this
Welcome.
the same RFP that was used from the last study?
I do not know. I think these
curious.
are probably all different.
Okay.
Yeah. The last one that was issued was only a compensation. This one incorporates more.
Okay.
Unless you did want us to follow, to take a different direction, that'd be up to you.
My understanding was it was a full look at everything. Is that
The last one?
what is desired?
Yes, full look is what's desired. Do you guys agree? Yes. The scope of service, that's really what we're asking for, right?
Yes, in the RFP, the scope of
That is what we're asking for.
So who made this RFP?
It's just a standard and we added to it based on your communications.
I provided them some
Okay.
background stuff on RFPs that I saw.
Well, and from the meetings that have been held, this is where we got the information as to what you would like for us to go out and have somebody review from salary to job classifications to evaluations to benchmarking, et cetera, based on trying to identify similar like positions to any pay compression issues to, again, whether we are within market or not, really everything related to our position classifications, pay. Are we in compliance with federal, state, local, county laws?
When I look at this and I look through the A through F on scope of services, that looks like it covers all the positions, correct? Is that, so I understand all the positions in the
All city yes, yeah.
Okay, that's
It's all of them, yeah. We're not picking and choosing any. It's all of them.
I don't, you guys anybody have concerns then?
I think the only change that I need to make is I missed one, any questions or sending in the RFP to the clerk. We'd like that to go to the city manager's office. I just noticed that scrolling through.
I honestly have not had a chance to review it, but it looks like it's going out for advertisement on the 12th. Is that?
We don't have to. These are just to give you a calendar, an idea.
Sure.
It can go out at any time.
Okay.
We just adjust the schedule based on if you want to take some time to look at it, provide any additional comments or not.
And I know you shared with me the Tampa analysis that was done. I think it was Tampa. I don't think it was St. Pete.
Yeah, I think it was Tampa.
It was the city of Tampa, and it just listed what I think the mins and maxes for positions.
Yeah, I never
That's all.
asked
It was just a salary. That's all it was. It didn't have anything else.
Anything else? Is that something you guys would like to look at, just to get an idea?
I haven't asked them for a copy of their RFP, so I don't know what all it covered. I know I saw a section of that, which was the salary part on their website that I downloaded and gave to the city manager and his assistant.
Yeah, it's just a listing of salary. Here's the positions, and this is what the salaries are.
The one big flag that I noticed on that is their minimum pay scale was 18, which I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting, but, you know, that,
If you'd like, I can ask them for a copy of their RFP.
what do you guys want to do? At this point, I want to move forward, but I don't,
I have not a great basis to make an opinion. I'm good to do what the collective opinion is on this.
Well, I think that the scope of service that's in there is, that the manager's right, everybody took notes of what y'all said you wanted. I think it's pretty comprehensive. I'm the procurement guy, so I reviewed the legalistics of the RFP to make sure, all the business, the scope was whatever was put together, but then the rest of it, how it happens procedurally. So I don't really know that looking at more and more RFPs is really going to do anything. If you're comfortable with the scope of service that's being required, then I think the best thing to do to move it along is let staff put it on the street. What will happen is we'll get proposals in, hopefully more than one. And in those proposals, because the companies are busy in different ways, you'll get their proposed timelines. We'll do it in 6 weeks, we'll do it in 6 months, whatever. And that's all part of staff's analysis, because it still has to come back to you to say, okay, here's what we believe is the best company to choose. So it's probably better to get it on the street and let's see what we get back. That's my 2 cents.
We would bring it back to you at your next meeting on March the 7th, the responses that we received, possibly presentations from 1 or 2, if we hopefully have multiple firms that provide responses, and then a recommendation as to whom, and certainly your input as to whom you would like to recommend. Ultimately, the city commission has to approve the agreement to hire a firm to do the study, but certainly we will begin here, as I stated, on March the 7th.
So why don't we go, are there any questions or concerns? I mean, I don't have a lot of basis. I know we've discussed it. I know Jerry had gone through a number of the RFPs. To me, this seems reasonable, and my understanding is the city considered our comments, questions, and concerns and integrated it. And so let me ask, city manager, do you have any concerns, or this accomplishes what you need from the?
No,
Okay.
this works.
Megan, you put this together, I assume?
Yeah, I compiled it. Yeah, it looks good to me. Fingers crossed we get more than 2.
Okay, and the attorney, you have no concerns with this, and this is pretty standard and typical? Okay. So I'm good with it as it's put forth, and then how about, let's go through, anybody else have comments, questions, concerns? Jerry?
No concerns at this point. From looking at this, and it's covering everything, yeah.
Okay.
So, do-
Anyone else have any comments, concerns, Paul? No?
so do we do a vote and say, let's move forward? Okay, can I get a motion to move forward?
I motion to accept the RFP and get it advertised.
Second? Okay, Mr. Tilka, second.
Vice Chair Ponte,
Yes.
Commissioner Tilka, Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Chair Contrell.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. We really appreciate your help on this. Okay, that was HR report. Went over the holidays, guys, I looked at, and this is something that I'm bringing up on how we've been conducting business, and I want to get your input and tell you something that I noticed myself. When I went back and I looked at my own notes, and then I looked at the recording and tried to follow through where I made notes, because we're not reading all the way through everything, I found it very difficult to correlate this statement was made for this section. And if you guys are okay, not that we read everything, but I would at least like to read the first sentence of every paragraph.
Okay.
So it's easier to track where we state that we're going to make a change. Is that okay? You guys all right with that? Okay. All right. There was one other thing which I think we should wait on until next meeting, and I brought this up by email to Mr. Aschenfelder, so it's not a surprise or anything like that. We definitely communicated on it. When we're talking about permanent additional duties, it was approximately 1 hour and 31 minutes into the meeting. There was a good 15-minute long discussion over permanent additional duties. We were talking, you had a discussion with him, and you're trying to get information about where is something mentioned in the document. And Mr. Aschenfelder said page 2-8, all right, and I just accepted it. And then when I'm going back and listening to the meeting notes, I tried to find page 2-8, I can't find it.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is just give him time, because it was the holidays, if we could just I just noted that it's there, that I can't find it, because page 2-8 is not in my pages, and I'm sure it's in his, and it's just a miscommunication. When we return the next time, which I'm assuming is gonna be next month, not March, but I'd like to just come back to that and ask that question again. That way he's got time to look at it and figure out where is it we're talking about. Is that okay?
Yes, tell me again the question.
The question had to do with permanent additional duties. That began at 1 hour and 31 minutes into the meeting, all right? The comment was made at approximately 1 minute and 46 minutes into the meeting. It was based on the recording that was there. And he said basically to find the information he was referencing, and I wish I'd have written this down better here, because this is just the email. All right, it said it was on page 2-8, but I can't find page 2-8 in my papers. And I'm sure it's just a mix-up between what his documents read and what mine read. I'm sure it's in the document. It's just I'd like to understand
So
where.
you're just asking for the attorney to
Clarify what he was
clarify
referencing. Yeah.
a reference, and you want to make, should we put a placeholder in the agenda on the next?
Placeholder in the agenda to come back to it,
Okay.
yeah.
So
It's,
request
is it,
to-
so can we readdress that at the next meeting?
And
Page 2-8. And there's an email to Mr. Ashenfelder, he's got that. I don't know if you can share that with other people. I definitely don't want to send it to you guys.
That's
I don't know
okay,
if I'm
yeah.
supposed to, but you could share that email and it would show them exactly what I was talking about as well. Do I have further down? Because there was more than one email on that to try and clarify it.
I'm okay with just, if he can review and we can just discuss at the next meeting and hopefully clarify.
The section starts with writing where an employee is permanently assigned significant additional duties. Vice Chair Ponte, you and I had a discussion regarding the assurance that employees agree to significant additional duties and respective compensation in writing. In this dialogue, you stated the concern was addressed on page 2-8. I cannot determine what he was referencing. That's all it is. And it's just, I'm sure, a discrepancy between papers.
Can
Okay.
you remind me which section we were in at that point?
For that was it was page 5-7, V-7. V-7. It's not the new book that we just got, no. It's at the top, it says compensation and pay plan, and then it's item number 8, permanent additional duties, section V-C. You see that? Okay, you got it? All right. It says, okay, so that's all. Yeah.
No, that's great. I would, as long as it's on the agenda, I don't have my notes to go back to. I'm going to just trust what you guys come up with and see what we discuss at the next meeting.
I'm sure it's somewheres in the multitude of papers we have. So it's, okay. Are you guys okay to move forward? Any more questions, everyone? All right. Ms. Van Blargen, you got that correct? Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay, so we're going back to the draft policy 2020 for old business. We agreed at the last meeting that we would begin on page 7-1, VII-1, leaves of absence, vacation leave. We actually already discussed this, but we said we would come back to this page, and that's why I'm going back to there. Seven one, leaves of absences, A, vacation leave. It's your left hand, right?
And we said we were gonna start there, 'cause it looks like we got through that.
We did go through it, but it's the other page over there. It's that one. That one, right there.
We should be working on this book right now.
You agree with that as well? Do you want to work out of this book now?
Yeah, I think the new one, isn't this one, that's what I keep doing,
That's-
is like going to the new one. That's why I have all my
So,
notes and all these versions.
Yeah, I think it's all the same. It's just the attorney updated
Okay.
so far for what y'all have already covered.
would you guys all agree that we go to this book then? The one that we just received?
Yeah, and I think the sections should remain the same, so that might be a better way to cite it, right? Because it wouldn't always be
Yeah.
7A.
This would be section 7, leaves of absence, A, vacation leave.
So then if the pages change from version to version, we should
Okay.
probably just refer to it by section.
A, vacation leave, there we go.
And I think you all had already gotten through A, at least I have a bunch of edits that you already made. And I have that we left off at B, sick leave.
Sick leave, B,
Yeah.
I do recall discussing vacation.
Yeah, my notes on A are that the vice chair wanted zeros before every decimal point.
That's a great one.
That's a critical note. That number 3 at the top of page 7-2, she wants revised to clarify. Then, number 6, that starts off use of vacation leave. That comes up to just past subsection D. And then, 6 becomes a new 7. And then we're striking through number 7 that's currently highlighted that says at the end of last pay period. And then on the next page, you struck out 9 totally, and then you told me to create a paternity, maternity leave.
9.
that's-
Employees, 9 is employee has a responsibility of notifying his or her supervisor.
No, 9, A9, which is unused vacation time up to ... hours shall be paid. That's what it begins. It's near the very end of A.
Yeah, it's on page B113.
Yeah, it's page 7-3, Roman numeral 7-3.
7-3, I'm on the wrong page. 9, okay, I got it, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I think we got through A. I haven't made those edits yet. I stopped at 6. But I think where I have is, you left off as 7B, sick leave.
correct. Seven B, sick leave, okay. And on sick leave is where I have noted that we talk about maternity, paternity, correct? Does everybody else agree with that?
Well, that's not an illness, so your instruction was to include that in A, vacation leave, so that's where I was going to put it.
Okay, have we talked about what maternity, do we need to talk about what maternity or paternity leave would look like, what it would be?
Well, what I propose is, let me write it, and then I'll bring it back to you, and you all can
Okay.
debate it, whatever you need to do.
And then we're starting in this new document, page 7-4, it's section 7, leaves of absence, item B, sick leave, correct? Everybody else? Okay, all right. So here we go. Item B, sick leave. Note Family and Medical Leave Act, FMLA will be considered and if applicable, will run concurrently with sick leave. See FMLA section 7.L. Actually, you mentioned that we need to start doing that. If something references somewhere else, we need to start putting the finder information in there, right?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Item 1, full-time and part-time employees who fill established positions earn sick leave credits each biweekly pay period based on a maximum of 80 paid hours, prorated if less than 80. Does anyone have any concerns for this paragraph?
And so was just what's plugged in, that the current city policy is sick leave is granted to all full-time employees at a rate of 96 hours per year, 8 hours per month. Part-time and temporary employees are not eligible to receive this benefit. And then it says, in terms of cashing out, sick leave may be accrued with no maximum. Employees shall be allowed to cash out up to 24 hours of their earned sick for having perfect attendance without sick leave used during that fiscal year. The final payout upon separation will be made on 25% of the accrued hours. And the only thing that I had written down in terms of from our last meeting is you wanted there to be no payout of sick leave and no maximum accrual.
Correct.
I think there was gonna be one payout for January 1st,
Yes.
2025.
Yes, there would be one
Yes.
payout to make sure that everybody is wherever they, that they don't lose what they've already have due.
Correct.
But after that, I think when we approve this, that payout should stop at that point. The amount of money that they can continue to be paid out, at that date, it should stop accruing for payout. Would you guys agree with that? Whenever this is approved, whatever that date is.
Oh, you're saying if this goes into effect February 28th this year, then that stops the clock on their,
Yeah. For what they
Accruing.
can be paid out. They won't be paid out further than February 28th. Is that okay?
I would ask legally how you approach that.
Well, I doubt that this is going to be adopted by February 28th.
Same here.
Let's maybe
So-
kick that down the road
So
on
I think
being
what we
concerned.
do is, we're going to write it to say no payout, and then at the end, you guys will have to debate, where do we draw the line so that, current employees don't feel they've been slighted, and, the manager probably is going to want to speak to that. It's his troops, it's his budget, and he will see a budget impact if everybody rushes to, withdraw at the same time. So there are fiscal implications. So I think right now, let's write it the way we want it to operate moving forward, which is that there's no payout. And then when we get to the point where we're ready to release it to the commission, make a recommendation of what do we do with the current employees.
I agree. I'd mark that down as a integration step, and can we just denote that as its own, just notes, like circle back at end? Like in implementation, anything that we need to consider once we finalize this for actual implementation, and that's,
Got it on mine, and I'll actually go back to this, where I've made
you'll go
notes,
back to
and
it.
I'll transfer them all onto this.
Okay.
So,
somebody record that before we go live, we need to figure that out.
would you mind putting that down? Before we go live, we have to readdress the date that sick leave accrual will end,
Okay.
all right? For payout. Those hours that are listed in yellow here, are those approximations or are those real hours? Like the
That was
.05?
just plugged in way back when I did this in 2020. So what I read you is what this current policy is. And so really what you need to debate is, do you want to change current policy? Because otherwise, I'm just going to stick the current policy in.
Mr. Gomez, do you have concerns about the 96 hours per year or 8 hours per month is
Yeah.
prorated based on the 8 hours?
No,
80 hours.
that's fine.
You're good?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Anyone else? I want to come to work from Madeira Beach.
The only thing that I will, I haven't obviously written this, but in the current policy, they have this thing of cashing out for perfect attendance, and we've kind of talked about this in prior meetings, that almost incentivizes people to not use the sick leave they need to use because they're sick, just because they want to get a payout, so my recommendation is that doesn't carry forward. It's not in mine, but it is in the current one, but I just want to, point out that you won't be seeing it transfer over unless you want it to transfer over.
I think we were all in agreement last time, right? Or I think everyone was aligned that we don't want people doing that. We don't want,
Cashing
yeah,
out.
cashing out.
Yeah, it's there if you're sick, use it if you're sick. If you're not sick, it just doesn't get used. Right.
Okay.
Okay. It's okay to move on to 2? All right. Employees using sick leave are paid at an hourly rate in effect at the time the approved sick leave is taken, but such leave used shall not count as hours worked for any purpose other than FMLA eligibility. Concerns? Concerns? 3, during leaves of absence with pay, employees continue to earn sick leave credits with the exception of employees drawing hours from sick leave bank or long-term disability. No concerns? concerns? 4, full-time and part-time employees who fill established positions may accumulate unlimited sick leave credits. We're all in agreement on that, correct? All right. 5, sick leave earned during any pay period is credited to the employee on the last day of that pay period. In the case of an employment termination, it is credited on the last day the employee is paid on the payroll. 6, use of sick leave credits cannot be authorized prior to being earned and credited, and used only with approval from the department director or designee, who may require sufficient and specific medical documentation of the need for leave prior to authorizing sick leave pay. If we want to encourage employees to take their sick leave, can we make that to where that is in excess of 3-5 days, something like that? Because, I mean,
I
if
don't
you have-
think it's saying that you can't take the sick day, it's just they have to approve your timesheet. Is that correct?
the way it's,
They may require sufficient documentation, so maybe they don't require documentation if you're just homesick for one day with a stomach bug. It doesn't say they have to.
Have to, okay.
Because you're right, maybe they don't go to doctor's note because they.
So what this gets to is, on your average situation, good employee shows up, does his or her job, they call in, they say, boss, I got the flu. Boss says, fine, stay home, take care of yourself. Flip side, employee historically has abused sick leave. Everybody kind of knows that for whatever reason they are, either it's a Monday, Friday, they
Friday
drink
warrior,
too much,
yeah.
whatever. And so we're just putting in the policy that we reserve the right to kind of throw the flag and say, we want to see a note from your doctor. And
Understood.
we're entitled to do that.
I get it. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
I would recommend that after credited, we put a period, make it its own sentence, just for clarity, because they're separate thoughts in some sense. You can't use them before you've earned them, and then period, and then make in the next sentence that it has to be, approved. So I request the attorney just reviews that for clarity.
Credited, and then and used only becomes a new sentence, right?
Yes. To me, those are they're related but separate, so breaking that sentence up might help with clarity.
Okay, I got it.
So are you good with that, Commissioner Cantrell?
I'm good with that. Are you guys good with that? 6, sentence 6, first sentence, after the word credited, it's the first line, put a period there, and then the and used only with approval from the department director or designee, comma, who may require sufficient and specific medical documentation of the need for leave prior to authorizing sick leave pay, becomes a new sentence, so I'll have to have a little bit of different structure there, but.
Yeah, I'll make it
Yeah,
a separate. sentence.
yeah. Are we okay to move to 7? Okay, 7, sick leave hours are charged to the employee's sick leave account.
That-
I'm good with that.
Is there a sick leave pool?
It's not in this document. We have to ask it to be put in there.
What was it?
The sick leave pool
I
is
said,
not,
is there a sick leave pool?
it's currently not in this document.
Oh, where you can share? I believe we said it,
We've discussed with Mr. Gomez that any employee can donate to another employee. Mr. Gomez said 3 days, I believe. That's something we have to bring up. It is not in this document. It is in the old policy, though.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
So this might be a place.
In item 3, they talk of a sick leave bank. That's what we're talking
well, let's ask the
about.
attorney. I thought it was in here. Is this in here to your knowledge?
There's a
elsewhere?
sick leave bank someplace
Okay.
in my
Let-
policy.
Let's find it and
I
see
want to
if,
find this real quick. Let me open this one.
So then we could add that sick leave bank to number 7.
Control F.
so you're suggesting add a reference?
Yeah, it says if
Begged
it-
the question when you were reading it.
If an accumulated leave is exhausted. They can use vacation, compensatory time,
That is-
personal holiday, or the sick leave bank.
That is the only reference to sick leave bank in the entire document. I just did a search on the whole document. That's the only place. I am correct, it's not.
And item 3? Was the only-
Item 3, where it says sick leave bank,
That's
question
it.
3, or item number 3, sick leave bank, that is the only reference to sick leave bank in the entire document. You
Yes.
should have a category for it. So,
So what I'll note there is to add a subsection, like, we have A, B, C, we'll add a subsection called sick leave bank, and we'll create a sick leave bank.
while we're talking about that, there's a couple things I'd like to ask. We're on number 6, so we need to return to 7 when we come back. No, we're on number 7, so we'll return back to that, right? So, looking at item 3, discussing sick leave bank, does the city offer short-term or long-term disability for its employees?
We do.
Okay, is short-term, what is the structure for that?
We'd have to look up. I don't recall off the top of my head, but I know we have one employee who has left on long-term disability.
Long-term? Okay, is short, and I know they're different for different places, and what I want to be careful of is when we're talking about sick leave bank donations from other employees. Right now, it has to be made by a specific person to another person, 3 days maximum is all that can be donated. That's in the current policy, I do believe. There's a point where if you're out, you have to go on FMLA. You're just, there's no way. And you go beyond that 90 days, whatever the case is that the federal government says, because you're this entity, you have to maintain the position for the employee. At that point, you have the opportunity to hold on. We can wait for you to come back because we know it's going to be short, or this is a critical position, we have to hire someone, and you do that. If people are donating hours from their sick bank to another employee, it shouldn't exceed whatever that time is, because that's just not necessary. Does that make sense to you guys? If a person's on FMLA, there's, 12 weeks that they can be out. Say that they needed 12 weeks worth of vacation, and somebody was courteous enough, or several people were courteous enough to donate those 12 weeks. Person should be able to use the 12 weeks as necessary to draw compensation. But beyond that point, there should be a maximum amount of donation that could be given to a person. Do you understand what I'm saying? Why would you let somebody go 15 weeks if they can only draw 12? Does that make sense?
I think we need the section on the sick leave bank.
We need it so we can
Because it
review
doesn't even make sense to me about individual people donating to individual people. That just seems really complicated. Like, why not just have one bank where if somebody really needs it, they can draw on it?
Right. If I could speak to that. So way back when I was young in the city of St. Petersburg, that's the way they did it. It was, I have a long-term need, and so I'm asking all the employees of the city, please donate to me. And I have a clear memory of that because, I was a young lawyer, and so there was this poor lady in utility billings. And so I donated 30 hours to her. And she started in tears how generous I was. And I'm like, well, that's not very generous. But my rate of pay, thus the money I gave her, was way more than 30 hours for her. But my point is that I don't recommend that kind of a system because it sets up a popularity contest sort of a thing. And so the sick leave bank policy that I have in other policies, and I'll insert here, is that people can donate to a sick leave bank. If they do, they're participants in that program. And it is a program run by the employees. The employees will have a little committee of 3 people or whatnot. Management stays out of it. And so the employee says, dear sick leave committee, here, I would like to have this. And the employees make the decision based upon whatever the merits are as a group and gives whatever hours they give. That's the best model I see. It lets people be generous, it lets people have that money, but it keeps management out of making decisions that are, by their nature, arbitrary.
I like that.
I'm in favor of that.
Like that.
One thing I do want to clarify for what we do now is we can donate to a specific person if we know that's the person that's in need, but typically we don't put out, hey, XYZ needs this amount of hours for their FMLA. So that's not something that we put out there.
Understood.
So are both the city manager, and are you both in alignment with that approach? The committee and the,
I think it's a great
Yeah,
idea.
that's the simplest way to do it.
I like
Just
it.
create a sick leave pool and have a committee that makes the decisions when an applicant
They're
requests
managing
hours.
their own time. But in order to be part of it, you're saying they must donate to it.
Yeah, could I read it to you real quick? Do you want me to do that?
Sure, just to
All
get a
right.
brief idea, yeah.
This sick leave bank program is intended to provide a source of extended income to qualified member employees who have exhausted all paid leave and, due to a disability, illness, or injury, remain unable to return to work. Certification from a healthcare provider may be required to establish eligibility. The sick leave bank program shall cover illness or injury of the member only and will not provide benefits for members being paid by a long-term disability policy or for absences due to family illness or injury, self-inflicted injuries, injuries covered by the worker compensation law, including secondary employment. The sick leave bank program is administered by the employees with the guidance from Human Resources Department. The Human Resources Department is authorized to develop and periodically revise administrative procedures and related forms to administer the sick leave bank. All administrative procedures shall be published to employees on the city's webpage. The sick leave bank shall be funded by voluntary contributions of hours by qualified member employees. Employees may join or resign from the sick leave bank at any time. However, any contributed hours made by a member who resigns from the program or who otherwise separates from employment with the city shall remain in the bank and shall not be reimbursed to or paid to the resigned or separated member.
no takesies, backsies.
So does that,
Good,
Yeah,
okay,
yes.
very good.
then I'll add that to this.
Okay.
So I have a
So,
question. Oh, go ahead. Have to. Oh,
I was just going to say, so I would suggest for the number 7 that we add the sick leave bank to the listing. Yeah.
okay. A question. If I'm an employee and I'm making $30 an hour and I donate an hour to another employee that's making $15 an hour, does he get the $30 credit?
It's dollar for dollar. You're donating the value of your sick leave hour.
oh,
So if you're a
gotcha.
higher paid employee and you're
Yep.
paid $20 an hour, you're giving $20 to the sick leave bank.
Gotcha.
And then if a $10 an hour employee uses it, that basically they get 2 hours of
Yes,
sick leave.
good, okay. That's going to be complex to manage, isn't it?
That's where management is sitting here.
I think we need to review that. I'm not sure if that's what we're doing. I think we're donating hours and it's just an hour.
An hour. And you
If an
figure-
employee requests 8 hours and the pool has 16 hours, regardless of where the 16 hours came from, that employee is compensated for 8 hours at that employee's
Rate.
hourly rate of pay.
Ah,
But we will check, I mean, that, I've never heard of that you get more because somebody at a higher wage makes more. I mean, I've never heard of that, but
It's
I,
actually,
we'll check to see if we're doing that, but I don't think we are.
it seems, to the employee, it shouldn't really make a difference.
No, it's just the hour. They're,
It's accounting for you guys, and honestly, it makes more sense that way, because you're actually, if not, you could have somebody donating,
So think about it conceptually.
yeah.
You're giving away, right now, if I have accumulated sick hours, the city is already accounting for that. Like, there's some computer somewhere that knows I'm owed X number of hours, which translates to X number of dollars based upon my rate of pay, right? So all you have to do, if the hours are donated, is you tell the computer, take out 20 hours from Tom's sick leave, which means take out X number of dollars from Tom's sick leave and put it into this bank. So there's more money in the bank. And then the employee committee, when they get faced with a request, basically they're giving away the dollars based upon the hourly pay of the requestor. So there is no link employee to employee. It's really the donating employee is participating in the bank by periodically giving X number of their dollars to the sick leave bank. And then the person who wants to access that is just asking for dollars. The sick person will come in and say, I make $15 an hour and I need sick leave bank. Can I please participate? And if the bank people in charge say yes, you get $15 per hour for however many hours they decide to pay you. And it gets paid out of the pool of dollars that have been donated.
I think that's more financially responsible for the city, and I would just say, can you account for it? And I would have you look at your system and see if that's an option.
I've seen that before, that Attorney Eschenfelder's talking about, and they also had a report that went out, was how many hours and what the rate of pay, what each hour was valued at. And so there was a price of your value, the value of the whole pool, and how many hours were in there. I've seen that before.
I mean, it has to be dollarized in one way or another, because if not, if you just say, well, people participate and they're donating hours, people have all different rates of pay, and so the program will be bankrupted. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to call it a
But
bank.
the program is only based on hours, not dollars. Again, if an employee works 20 hours in a week and asks for the other 20 hours so they can receive their 40 hours worth of pay, that's what the sick leave pool is for, so that they receive their rate of pay. I mean, we'll do whatever you would like us to do, but it seems like a lot more accounting work to do, but that's fine, we can do that. Let's find out exactly what we're doing. I'm pretty sure we are simply receiving hours and then recording those hours when asked.
I'd like to, I'd say let's table this until
I'd
they
like
can
to proceed
figure
with
out.
what you have, and then,
I'll write it up, I'll share it with
why don't
everybody,
you
you know,
all-
management could take a look at it and see what they're doing now.
If you guys can't implement it, there's no reason in prescribing it, so let's make sure you guys can actually, let's figure out what works and makes sense. So I'd say let's table it until we get more information.
do you guys do just out of curiosity, do you, in some of the management structures I worked in, we actually did a statistical measure that would tell us this amount of sick time is taken during any given year. Now, those companies I worked for had thousands of employees. All right, so you could say, the average employee made $20 an hour, and that's what you have to rate for it. No matter how much they get paid, that's the average, and it'll work out to where it fits budgetarily, and you won't lose money. Is that how you currently do your structure?
I'd have to talk with finance. I don't get to do that part.
And Jerry, I would have us keep
Yeah,
going on.
let's just keep going, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, so we definitely need to see what Mr. Eschenfelder has and then work our way through it. Can you help us find that information, please? Because we're definitely going to need it to consider which direction to go.
Absolutely, and I also wanted to contact some of the other HR in the other cities to see what they do as well, and if they do have a software or something their finance can use.
Perfect.
I'm making a note for myself here, guys, sorry.
You might be able to do it with, do you have a timesheet accounting software? I would
No,
look.
I was going to play around in Paycom and see what reporting we can do. We've got buku amounts of
I think
advanced
ours,
reporting.
thinking about it, you could probably accomplish what you're saying. They just charge it to, you charge it to an account, and it should allow it to even, accrue at the rate that they charge it, so.
It's just computer programming.
Yeah.
It's like, if I use sick leave, it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
If I donate it, it just goes a different where.
Yeah, yeah. So that's logistically implementing it, so.
The GAP process is what's called, generally accepted accounting practices. Yep, so, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, all right, so 7, we beat 7 to death, right?
Yeah.
Okay, are you guys ready to move on to 8?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sick leave can be authorized for the following purposes. A, personal sick leave. This looks like it's law, is that the way that's written? Mr. Eschenfelder?
It's, so Part of it is incorporating this Code of Federal Regulation, which talks about medical attention, and part of it is just trying to be as specific as possible. The situation comes up where employees may want to use sick leave, but they're really not qualifiedly sick. Maybe they just ran out of vacation and they want to take a vacation. And so management needs some specificity, at least it's my recommendation, to be able to say no. And so that's why having something that's specifically written, here is what the purpose of personal sick leave is. Your personal illness, injury, or exposure to a contagious disease.
That kind of makes me want to look at,
I'm good with it as written. And I would say, I think you
Yeah.
sort of hit on something there. If there's anything, Attorney Ashenfelder, that's in here that's law or language we shouldn't
We're not gonna
spend
mess with
time
it. We're not
discussing,
gonna
just
mess
let
with
us
it.
know as
Yeah.
we get to those sections.
Yeah.
So I think after the note is sort of maybe what you're.
That's correct,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
That's just a federal regulation.
that is what it is.
Are you guys okay to move on to 9? All right, 9, the employee has the responsibility of notifying his or her supervisor or their designated personnel when sick leave absence is necessary. And, my computer. So we are going on to A. Prior to authorizing an employee to use sick leave credits, the department director may require the employee to certify the absence is for reasons outlined in this policy. Is that like basically asking for a doctor's note?
Prove that you,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, understood. All right. B, any questions on that one, guys? B, after 3 consecutive workdays, regardless of the number of scheduled hours in a workday of sick leave absence, the employee shall be required to provide FMLA medical certification from a certified healthcare provider before being authorized to use additional sick leave credits unless deemed necessary by the department director based on facts already known. That's concerning to me, because what if you have the flu? And, not trying to pull anything up.
Then it's deemed unnecessary by the department director based on facts already known.
Would they need the FMLA certification if they have to take 5 days for flu?
If the director deems it unnecessary based upon facts already known, and the facts are, this is a good employee, I know they're not messing with me, and I know they just have a bad case of the flu.
I see.
I'm not gonna, it's a threshold that, again, this is one of those things to say, to give management ammunition when management says, it has now been past 3 days, here's your FMLA certification, please take it to your doctor. And the employee says, when do you do that? Because the personnel policy says. But obviously, we are practical people. And if we just know our employee has a bad case of the flu or whatnot, we're not going to make them go get FMLA. We have no reason to do that. But the 3-day trigger is what's in the FMLA regs. It's what a lot of employers who are subject to FMLA use, because it lets management have a standard trigger. If they've been gone for 3 days, I, as a manager, at least need to think about, do I have reason to think that this needs to be FMLA certified? So your run-of-the-mill flu, it's not going to be that way. But if an employee says, I have migraine headaches, as an example, and I need to be out, and then day 4 comes and they still have a migraine headache, and we have no information about that, we're going to ask them to get a certification.
Would can instead of shall be appropriate for
Pardon
B?
me?
Yeah,
Can
can.
be
Where
required.
I'm concerned is that if you're saying 3 and it shall, then everybody has to do it at 3.
That's true. I think can is more appropriate.
Okay, I got it.
Right.
Is there a threshold where FMLA must kick in?
Well, no, the issue there is you can't start calling it FMLA if you haven't certified it as FMLA. And for the employer to be able to certify it, we need that certification from the healthcare provider so that it could be analyzed and approved.
And we're assuming that that would be a 3-day threshold.
That's what the FMLA says, is that after 3 days, the employer can ask for the certification.
Okay,
So that's
understood.
where this comes from.
All right, okay, all right. Any questions, guys?
I feel like shall is better. So it says shall be required unless unnecessary.
That, that makes it the default. To me, it's, we can do this if we think it's necessary. I would almost switch it, I'm not sure, but it's more likely to be the situation where somebody's out 5 days. I mean, 5 days is, it's a long time, but people have situations. As a manager, I would think more, I'd want it to be more on the can than shall.
And where I struggle is I would want it to be consistent for every employee too. I'm concerned 3, but if that's the way the law is written, then okay. Though, but it should be consistent for everyone. So say a manager has this employee they really like and they don't want them to have to use up their FMLA, which there's a maximum amount you can use in a year. So the person's out for 2 weeks and they don't make them do it. Where another employee comes along that they're struggling with and they require them to do it. There's a differentiation between the way you're treating employees. That's not fair or consistent. So if it's consistent that it's 3 days, then everybody's 3 days. It doesn't matter. 3 days, you got to put in the paperwork. That's where I think that get rid of that unless deemed necessary by the department director. They're not a medical doctor.
No. That's, well, I would not get rid of that for this reason. Well, you're thinking about, I understand what you're thinking about it from just 100% consistency of treatment.
Yeah.
But you also have to think about it from not overburdening our employees, right? So we know flu season comes every year, and we know some of our troops are going down, and they're going down maybe for more than 3 days. Do we want to burden them, even though I know and they know that they have the flu? Do we want to say, but you got to get in your car and go to the doctor and wait in the waiting room and get a piece of paper and bring it back to me just because you've been out that 4th day? That's why you need to let the boss make an exception to say, I know why you're out, I'm cool.
I think what we're after is the ability to request that.
Right.
Not making that required. I mean, I agree with that. I don't think that should be required for every person sick over 3 days.
So the
Do we agree with that fundamentally, like that conceptually, I guess?
Conceptually, as long as it's consistent.
Okay, so conceptually, we want the ability to do this and we want it to be consistent.
Well, and Chair Cantrell, you raise a good point, and I've seen it, probably most of us have seen it, where bosses do not apply a whole host of policies consistently amongst their employees. That's where senior management needs to be paying attention, needs to hear if there's complaints out there of why is Susie getting the favorable treatment and not having to do all this while I am being made to do all that, because that's the seeds of discontent. But that should be dealt with on
That's
a managerial
management.
level as opposed to, you just can't make everything
It won't be able
100%
to-
consistent all the time.
So is the word shall or can then? That's
I
what we're back to.
I think can, because if it's shall, then you're saying that every time this happens, we typically need to do this. By saying can, we're saying most of the time we're not going to do this, but if I think that there's an issue here, I can ask you to do that. So that's my position is can. May.
Well, may.
I think may is more grammatically correct than can.
Grammar, I'm not good at grammar.
That's
But I don't think it should be shall.
Change to may. Okay. I think what I got
And
to ask real quick, how many degrees did it just take to come up with that word?
This is, unfortunately, it's unfortunately the fun of policies, right? I would or suggest that the last part of that sentence also be considered for revision, because then that doesn't really make sense. Shall,
Yeah, you could, if you put may there, there's no reason to say unless deemed unnecessary by.
I mean,
I
attorney
have a
should follow
note to
your, yeah,
examine
he'll
if
figure
I
out
should tweak
something
it,
to.
yeah.
Okay. You guys ready to move on to C? Okay. Employees may be required to report periodically, no more than, often than 7 calendar day intervals on the status of their sick leave and intent to return to work, and may be required to submit no more often than 30-day intervals, medical certification, recertification for certified health provider if their sick leave continues.
This comes right out of the FMLA.
Okay. So that doesn't
May,
change then?
that is the same.
Okay. D, employees may be required to convalesce at a specific location, such as a healthcare facility or at home where deemed necessary by the department director to prevent abuse of sick leave.
Fine by me.
That should be healthcare provider, not department director. Employees may be required to convalesce at a specific location, such as a healthcare facility or home where deemed necessary by healthcare physician. It cannot be department director. You're saying the department
And-
director has ability to make medical decisions.
My recommendation is to have this as it's worded. If you say healthcare provider, it completely makes it worthless. I've seen employees go and get all manner of notes from their healthcare providers that say whatever that employee wants them to say. And I have also seen where employees say that they are using sick leave and show up at Disney or show up at their secondary jobs. And so if management feels, and again, this is not something that's frequently used, but if management feels this person is playing us, and so unfortunately I have to invoke this, so, okay, I'll approve your leave, but you must convalesce at home. That's a management prerogative to be able to do, and I recommend that that be a tool in management's tool chest.
If you're saying convalesce at home, I understand that, but how would that person say you have to convalesce at a healthcare facility? Because you can't be admitted to a healthcare facility in most instances without, unless it's for psychiatric help or substance abuse, you can't be admitted without a physician's approval.
So I think the idea is, if you're sick, we expect you to be at an appropriate location.
But if the doctor says, we want you to convalesce, there's a problem here.
Okay.
There's a fundamental problem. I understand and respect what you're saying, Mr. Eschenfelder, because I wouldn't want an employee out doing that either, because it's inappropriate for them to go to work for a second job or to go to Disney. If they're sick, they need to be sick. But to sit there and say that a department director can say that you must be at a healthcare facility, that may not be a possibility. Because, I mean, I could tell you, I'm on FMLA right now, and my requirement is to have home care. And I have to have home care, so I have home care coming in once a week. I don't have an option to go to a healthcare facility. The option I did have was to be extended care, which I don't want to be admitted to a hospital.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's saying you, and I think what we need is clarification on language. My interpretation here is that we're saying like, you can't be at Disney World. And so it's not saying that you have to be at one or two, it's that they have the ability to say you can't be vacationing. And that might not be what the words say.
If you want to change the word to
Yeah.
phrase that would be great. But to say that a director can say you have to be at a healthcare facility, that can't be held up.
So how about something like this?
Why don't we just drop the words "a healthcare facility" or?
What about if medically deemed necessary by a healthcare provider? No, so,
No.
something where he wants it to state that we have something saying that there's a requirement that you can't be out in public, or,
You can't force somebody on FMLA not to be out in public. I mean,
not FMLA, this is sick leave,
Sick leave.
specifically for being sick.
yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Either
So that's not
injury,
FMLA, yep.
illness, exposure to a contagious disease. It's not for extended injury. It's if you're sick.
How
This
about
is
employees
D.
may be required to convalesce at a specific location such as at home where deemed necessary by department director to prevent abuse of sick leave?
That would be fine. The healthcare facility needs to be off there.
Fine.
You know,
Remove a healthcare facility or,
Can you make somebody be at home?
yes.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, if the person, you know,
Yeah.
obviously, we can't go with a gun or whatever, but your choice is,
Yeah.
if you wish to be paid the benefit of sick leave,
Yes,
as opposed to being
Okay.
unpaid, you convalesce at home.
understood.
Understood.
Okay, then that sounds good
Alright.
to me.
Everybody okay?
I do have a quick question. In regards to FMLA, if someone uses their sick leave because they're on FMLA, like right now, being pregnant, we don't have the paternity agreement. So I did take some sick leave and I did go around town because I was on maternity leave. Is that something separate from that statement that you have there?
Well, again, this statement doesn't say everybody who uses sick leave has to stay home. It says that management has the right
Okay.
in a particular situation, and again, it's usually going to be where management strongly suspects that you're really not sick. And I can think in my head, actual cases where I've seen this occur, where the person is supposedly sick because they got their doctor to give them a note, because doctors can, you know, give notes for anything, and yet their coworkers who are working, you know, out in the field, see them at a restaurant, see them at their secondary employment, and say, wait a minute, I thought you were supposed to be sick. But if they're not required to convalesce at home, we don't really know. All we know is we have a piece of paper from a doctor saying that they're entitled to be out, and now here they're abusing that sick leave. And that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the people who are seeing it, their fellow coworkers, and it's not good for that person who needs to be preserving their sick leave for if and when they have a real serious illness. So run-of-the-mill, you take time because you're pregnant or any number of issues with our city employees, fine, you go and do what you do. Just like if you're taking sick leave because you have the flu and you're a single person, and so you know that for me to get my NyQuil, I'm going to have to get in my car and go to Walgreens and get my NyQuil and go back home and crawl into bed. Fine. You know, that's totally fine. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Good question. All right. Are we okay to move on? Any other questions? Okay, E, upon returning to work following a long-term illness or injury, an employee may be required to provide medical certification from a certified healthcare provider showing he or she is safely able to perform the essential functions of his or her job with or without reasonable accommodation.
My only comment before moving on is I'd suggest reviewing and seeing if we can combine 6 with 9. It seems redundant. We have 6, which prescribes prior authorization. I would request if the attorney can just look and see if it's appropriate to integrate, and we could just discuss.
When you're saying 6, can you please tell me what you're talking about?
Yes, sir. 7B6, so sub item 6 within sick leave. And then the list, that's part of 9. It's, 6 is use of sick leave credits cannot be authorized. Use is only with the approval from the DART department director.
So you're wanting to combine B6 and B9?
Yeah, potentially. It seems
Right.
like there's redundancy here because it says.
So my note will be, look at combining B6 and B9.
Yeah, see if that's appropriate. It
Okay.
seems redundant, but
No problem.
thank you. And then I'm good.
Any other questions? Dr. Telka? Okay. We're on to 10. There we go, page 7-6. An employee who refuses to comply with the above stated requirements is not eligible to use sick leave credits.
Good.
I'm good with it. Okay. 11, employees providing written documentation from a certified healthcare provider indicating that the employee is unable to perform regular job duties due to an accident, illness, or medical-related reason with the approval of the department director may be placed on light duty status or assigned to perform other temporary duties which will not be prohibited by the condition during recuperation within the following guidelines. A, the employee hourly rate of pay remains the same, including personal working non-standard schedules such as 24 to 48-hour shifts. Okay, B, if requested by the employee submits to a physical examination by a certified healthcare provider selected and paid by the department prior to approval or continuation of the temporary status. Failure to comply could result in denial or of use of further sick leave. C, the temporary status may be approved by the department director for a period not to exceed 3 consecutive months. D, request to remain in the temporary status in excess of 3 months period may be authorized by the city manager. Such request will, I don't need to read that, okay. E, any questions so far, guys? Any comments?
Nope.
E, approval of temporary light duty is in the sole discretion of the city and is conditioned upon the availability of budgeted payroll funds to pay the employee and/or temporary workers at the same time. The disruption which may be caused to the other workers in the workplace, the needs of the department, and the availability of bona fide light duty work to be done. F, with documentation from the certified healthcare provider stating that the employee may return to regular unrestricted full duty status, the employee will resume his or her regular position. G, when approved to return to regular unrestricted full duty status, failure by the employee to do so could result in termination of employment under Section 11 of the policy. H, approval of temporary light duty does not signify the city's agreement that the employee is a qualified individual with disability under the Americans with Disability Act, ADA, or the Rehabilitation Act, or that the employee is covered by the terms of FMLA, or abrogate any defense that the city may have under civil rights laws. I, employees who are determined to be unable to perform the essential functions of their jobs may either request a reasonable accommodation under Section 9E, or where no accommodation is available, be referred to the alternate employment program under Section 9.f. Any questions, guys?
Give me 1 second. I want to see. I thought I might. I guess in hearing F, is there any instance in where we might not have a position for them any longer? With documentation from a certified healthcare stating the employee may return to regular duty, the employee will resume his or her regular position. What if we don't have that position any longer?
So.
Or do we have to at that point?
Well, so under the FMLA, if it's an FMLA qualifying event, we're required to hold their position for at least that 12 weeks of
Okay.
paid or unpaid leave, and so this would likely occur within that 12 weeks. They would be able to come back. This is a situation where, I've seen sometimes where the employee has been deemed fit to come back, but they still claim subjectively, oh, I can't, I'm still having pain, whatever. And their management's like, look, the doctor says you're cleared, we need you back, you got to come back.
And I guess my question became, it says, we can approve it beyond 3 months. Is there anything there where there's an overlap where, it's been 4 months now and we no longer have the position, and now we've said we're going to give you your position back in that F? Do you know what I'm saying? The employee will resume. Do we have to keep that position available? I guess if we're approving it beyond the 3 months, beyond the FMLA, then that's the city has to.
If we're letting them extend, then yes, we're not going to then torture them and say, oh, we've eliminated your job or given it to
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
Really, the question comes in, once you've gotten your FMLA 12
Yeah.
weeks, management has to make a decision. Let's say the person has a ton more sick leave left. Do I let them keep burning it, or do we really need to move on because this is a critical position, we don't have a lot of other substitutes, whatever, and then sometimes the hard decision needs to be made. You will see, I haven't gotten to it yet, maybe you've read it already, but I do have an alternative employment program that I've baked in to the recommended policy where HR will work with the person to try to transition them to something else in the city that they may be available for. But if we need that position and they're just not able to come back after whatever period we are willing to live with it past the 12 weeks, then we just tell them, you're not coming back to this position.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Any other questions? Item 12, on page 7-7.
That's all coming
That's
out
all
because
coming out.
that's payout, and
Is-
we're not paying out.
It looks to me like everything in there does definitely need to be removed. Do we need anything in here that says that employees who are rehired by Madeira Beach after having previously worked for the city are not entitled to receive credit for unpaid sick leave hours? Does that need to be stated?
Well, we already say it's not paid out, so.
So we
that's
don't need it then?
Redundant, yeah.
Okay, all right. So that means we move on to item 13, which will probably be new item 12, correct? That, item 13, the number will change on it, correct?
Oh, hold on. Oh, you're
Oh,
7.
tiny little 13, yes,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's on page 7-8. Item number 13 should probably become number 12. It will read, notwithstanding any provision of this policy referring to calendar year, accruals of leave balances shall be governed by the city's adopted payroll tracking system and may be calculated by the payroll calendar used by that system. Good with it. Okay. Okay, we have roughly 30 minutes left before we're going to need to start wrapping up, because in 30 minutes, that gives us 20 minutes to end anything we need to do before Mr. Eschenfelder absolutely has to leave. So is there anything anybody has concerns with? You guys okay to keep moving forward, at least for the next 30 minutes?
Yeah, do we have anything that we need to do at the end?
Not that I'm aware of. We have future agenda items. I would like to go through those and see where we're with some of them, if we feel like we've got some addressed, stuff like that, but
We have our next meeting scheduled, I think, right?
we do not have that done yet.
I thought
We have it for March.
yeah, I thought we had them for the year.
We have it for the year. Would you guys be agreeable to come back in 1 month to meet again? Because we aren't through this yet, and we need to finish getting through it. Mr. Eschenfelder, is the day that you are not available that we need to be aware of? And city manager, and Tom, and Megan?
The next one I have on mine is March 7th.
Would you guys
Is that
be
right?
okay with
You want
February at
February?
all?
What block of hours are you looking to work?
That's what.
Okay, where's full circle? Where did we start?
Oh, we started,
I wanna know how much we have left.
Chair Embler wanted to start where the last policy left off, and I don't remember what that section was.
It's in my edit, so it picks up in the last chapter, which is the miscellaneous chapter.
Okay.
You had gotten through all that, and
Okay.
yesterday you got red line for what you all did. And then you all went back to the beginning, and you went through the initial policy statement, and then you did chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you're on 7, about to go to, well, you're still in 7.
And we're getting close, right?
You're getting close
Yep.
to 8. Well, not really, 7's a
Not
big.
really, that's what I'm trying to figure out,
Seven's
is
a
what do
big
we have
chapter.
left?
And I think
Well,
we-
7 is all the leaves of absence, so it's kind of long because we got to get through jury duty and FMLA, but hopefully we'll be moving more quickly because
And I
that's.
think y'all are gonna go back around after all the changes are
Yes,
gonna be made.
we are. Okay, so are we okay to move on then, or do you guys want to try and meet in February?
Well, I guess I still want to understand, so we were in miscellaneous, I think, so we had the red lines, and that's going to what, uniforms? I want to know, what do we have left? Do we look at the table of contents, which section did we start on? We're on
25, you did all of 25,
25.
So we need to go through,
Roman numeral 25.
So we did all of 25, so that's their employee recognition program, 25, is that?
And you did 26, use of vehicles.
22.
Which
Did
is
we do 24 uniforms? Because I think we did that.
You did, yes, you did that.
No.
Don't clean their uniforms.
So I think 24, which is page 24-1 on the current document.
Yeah, so
24 uniforms.
so the last thing that you'll be doing is 23, workplace violence and threats.
Workplace violence and threats. this not right? 23.
XXIII for you Romans.
XX, that's X, okay, XX, okay, I'm looking at the wrong.
We are roughly halfway through the document.
Doing pretty good now.
Okay, so we are here. All right, that helps, thank you. I want to know what we have left. We're halfway. How long did it take us to get here?
Long time.
4 months. 4 months.
Y'all are working better now.
Yeah.
But we're meeting, we've been meeting once a month except for December. Since July, I think, is that right? Since July, I think we've been meeting once a month.
So what block of time would you be wanting to do in February if we do it in February? A 4-hour block, a 2-hour block? I mean, it matters in terms of at least my availability.
I'd prefer to do it, and it's up to everybody else too, I'd prefer to do a 4-hour block, so we need to get through this.
I would say the only thing that, really the first week of February, we've got several meetings in the commission chamber.
Okay? And then you've got to be,
Yeah, I teach a class called Road to the White House, and I'm bringing the students to South Carolina for 10 days.
when would you be back?
That primary is the 24th of February.
You're back on the 24th, is that what you
Well,
said?
back on the 25th, so like the week of the 26th.
So realistically, March is the date, it has to be the date,
Yeah.
unless we meet in January, but I don't, what do you guys want to do there? I know that I'm swamped in January.
March?
Any way to get through this quicker? If we come, can we commit to coming? I honestly, 4 hours, I'll be glazing over and not able to listen.
Y'all have talked before about reading it in advance,
Setting edits.
making sure you have your notes and concerns, and then the chair would say, Section 1, any concerns? Section 2, any concerns? I mean, we're never going to get through it if we read every word.
I don't think we can read anymore. I think we need to come with your questions or hold them.
We got to be, if we do that, we got to be clear about which section we're talking about. Because I do know that when I went back and looked and tried to cross-reference where we were talking, it was very difficult, but I don't think we called out explicitly, this is where this edit needs to be.
Well, you're running the meetings now, so you are going to make sure.
Yeah, I'd say
that's-
yeah.
when you're calling stuff, what's the right way to call it?
Section 7C1, Section 7C2,
Yes, that's
Section
the reference
7C3,
point.
yeah.
I'm
Not
good.
pages.
I am good with that.
Okay,
Are
so-
you guys good with that?
Yes, let's do that.
So on March, so we've got March 7th, are we saying is that scheduled for 2 hours? Is that a 4 to 6, or when
March
is that scheduled for?
7th.
2 hours, and I'd say let's decide right now through what page you have to have. If you don't do it, I mean, life gets busy.
We said we'd meet at 4 o'clock, and that was for accommodations of schedules. Is that correct? Am I correct?
I've got it blocked from 4 to 7.
That was my understanding. Are you okay for 3 hours?
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you okay for 3 hours?
Yeah, 4 to 7.
4 to 7.
So in March, through what part do we want to have absolutely, let's,
7, we're not going to get through 7 a day, so we got to do it.
so leave all the way through, let's try to get through discharge and discipline and try to do it in 2 big chunks here and be done.
Some of these are actually pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't know, I think that artificially puts a block. Members, will have a lot of time between now and then, nighttime reading, before you go to sleep, 5
Oh,
pages a
just
night.
do it? You're saying let's be.
Just do it, and then show up on March 5th, March 7th, ready to rock and roll. And then if we don't get it done, we don't get it done.
I agree. We can't,
I've got notes on everything, so
All right.
I'm good. Number 7's long. We need to try and make it through 7, 8, 9, 10. Try to finish 7 at the next meeting. We should get through that. I mean, and if we don't get to 10, we don't get to 10.
But I another point that to make is that sometimes it's really best for you guys to read the whole thing, because then you have the whole holistic, and some of the questions that you've asked already are just indicative that you haven't read, that's addressed in the future, and that's fine. We do it that way.
I think I read it, though. It's like
I
it's
know,
been
I know.
years.
I know, I
It's
know, I
been
know.
years of life. So I'd say, let's get this done. Everybody, we're going to try to get this all done in March.
Okay.
And everybody in this panel commit to, including myself, you need to read through it so that we can get this done. And the questions, let's not do editorial, like, if it's something like the shall, may, I think that's appropriate to discuss, but things like periods, edits, let's just submit those in writing. I think that those are, sentences, I'll stop doing that. If it's something, clarification, unless it is difficult to understand, we should just submit those in writing. Is that fair?
I'm good.
Try to speed this up a little?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we're good to continue on and try to,
You guys okay?
are we good for next meeting? So we're saying March is our next meeting, and,
We're moving forward as quickly as we can.
okay, everybody come with your questions.
Yep. March 7th? From 4 PM to 7 PM. Yep. Okay, so
We're on 7C.
7C1, all right. If I go to 7C2, 7C3, 7C4, 5, 6 is the only one where I've got a question or a concern for me. Do you guys want to take a second to finish reading them?
Maybe we just address, I personally would need to reread it for the next time. Do you want to address your comment and question?
Yeah. For 6, if there's a question that an employee may be abusing personal medical appointment leave, the department director may require verification of appointments, which I totally agree the department director should be able to do that. But I also feel that, I don't know if it's, is this something where the department director makes their own personal notes, which they're their notes, so they keep up with, hey, these are concerns I have with an employee when they're coming up to evaluation times? Or should they notify the human resources department, hey, I need to ask for this, and make sure human resources is also involved in that?
This is, well, first of all, this isn't asking for medical information, it's appointment verification. It is, I actually went to this doctor's office today. And where this comes in is employees will often say, oh, I had this injury, and so I have physical therapy, right? And so every other day, I need to take off work and go to physical therapy. And again, in my vast experience, we have seen cases where the employee says they're going to physical therapy or to counseling or whatever, and they're just really not. And so if it comes to management's attention that this may not be happening and we're just being played and someone is burning sick leave to just go have an extra long lunch, we can require them to say, you need to verify for me that you were actually at this doctor's office at this time period.
So it's
That's-
basically a doctor's note, it's what you're asking for, right?
But with
Something
no,
of that sort.
no medical specificity. It's
Okay.
not authorizing you, it's not saying you're sick, it's just verifying you actually were there.
Understood. Okay, now I get what that is. Okay.
Which, can you tell me, so with reference to what subsection in C?
7C, item 6.
7C6. So your question, with that explanation, are you good with the
I'm good
statement?
with the explanation, yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with that explanation. I didn't have any.
As stated,
Yeah, I didn't have any concerns for any other things in there.
I'll bring mine next time if I have them.
This is actually just really a benefit to employees because some employers don't allow them to use sick leave for personal medical appointments because they may not actually be sick, like if they're following up on physical therapy. So it's actually a benefit. We just want to make sure the benefit's not being abused.
Okay.
I'd honestly suggest if we don't have, have you two, Judith and Paul, read that before? I think trying to read it now, I don't have my comments. I actually had them on the computer, which got stuck in the flood. So if we don't have them already thought out, I'd say let's forego them and maybe just let Jerry go through his questions if he's already, I don't know, can you read that fast and comprehend it all? I personally cannot.
I'm fine waiting until you guys finish reading that page to see if you have any questions. The main thing is to make sure we're looking at it comprehensively and not just running through it.
I'm good with that section.
Okay.
I'm ready for D.
Okay. Are you ready for D?
Yeah.
Dr. Tilka? All right. Section 7, leave of absence, subsection D, bereavement leave. The only thing I notice in here is under section 1.A, there's an asterisk for the amount of days. How many days are provided for in bereavement leave currently? There's something else going on over here. I don't have her attention. Hagan, you okay? You, okay. We're talking about bereavement.
How many days do you all currently do for bereavement,
I want to say 3.
right?
I'm thinking it's 3 days local and 5 days out of state.
I'd have to double check the policy.
And does fire get any adjustment because of their 24/48, or are they just 3 as well, or?
I'd have to look at their union agreement.
Can we get that information?
Absolutely.
So, and I never really thought of anything about if they're out of state, but if they've had a death out of state, and what is bereavement? Did that state that in here? Immediate family, it is defined. Okay, good. All right. Could we find out if there is an out-of-state 5 days, in-state 3 days?
Absolutely. And I'll look at the firefighters' union contract as well.
Okay. Out-of-state 5. State 3, and firefighters. Okay.
Is D1D how it's done currently? Bereavement leave is paid in accordance with scheduled workdays, including premium pay differentials if applicable, like overtime. I don't fully understand.
Shouldn't it be excluding? Because if you're on bereavement leave, you wouldn't need a premium differential.
No, all this is basically saying is if I'm already scheduled to be off, I'm not going to get bereavement leave if I happen to be attending the funeral while I'm off.
But this is saying including premium pay differential, so it looks like, to me, when I read it, it says that, okay, if you're on bereavement leave, we're still gonna pay your premium differentials.
Well, and do we have any premium pay
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
differentials here? It's usually police and fire.
Second shifts or
Not that I'm aware
holiday.
of, but I'll look into it.
All right. We do not? Okay. Then
Can we get
we'll
rid of
just-
that,
We'll just remove
those
that.
words?
In-state bereavement is 3 days, out-of-state is 5 days.
Okay, and do you know about firefighters, Mr. Gomez?
I can tell you in just a moment.
Okay.
Where's that link about the premium?
It's item D, the last couple of words.
Including, so we're just gonna take
So
that
we're gonna
out.
get rid of including premium on. Did you catch that, Ms. Van Blargen? D, so 7D, item D, under that, bereavement leave is paid in accordance with scheduled work days. Yeah, everything else, no, everything after work days, which is the including premium pay differentials if applicable, is gonna be removed.
Under the fire union agreement, bereavement is 1 shift if in-state, 2 shifts if out-of-state.
Wow.
Okey-doke.
I remember just, I don't know if we're ready to move on to the next, but there's on 7D2, I remember like a year, 2 years ago, we had some discussion regarding this. Do you remember, Judith Ann? I don't.
Do you wanna read through it real quick then?
No, I don't want to read through it.
Okay, all
I just
right.
want to know if anybody remembers, if the attorney remembers. I think it had to do with, anybody remember? Yes, 100%. Oh, yes. So I'd say let's go back and include whatever we decided there. And but I believe that this is, in essence, this immediate family definition is from something, is that correct?
It's from years and years of
Okay.
refining it with different clients. It's whatever the employer wishes to define. It's an employer benefit, right? So there's no statute that says you even have to have bereavement leave.
Judith Ann, that's what it was. It was the domestic partnership. Thank you. That was what it was. Because I believe you had a personal, yeah.
Are domestic partnerships recognized in the state of Florida?
No, it's very hard to, I mean, I think that was part of the discussion. That was under the previous iteration of the CSC. How's management going to figure that out? You know, I mean, some states before gay marriage was legalized had domestic partner registries because that was a way that you could allow the union to occur. And so employer could look to those registries and see who had become domestic partners in sort of the formal legal sense. Now that it's legal to be married, that's what people do. And so otherwise, you have a situation where, okay, it may be a committed, relationship where two people are living together in a romantic committed relationship, but now you're asking management to pull back that curtain and figure out, is it really a romantic relationship? Are you all just roommates? It's difficult to police.
There are circumstances where you know that there's couples that have been together for 20 years. You will know that they're a committed couple. You'll know that. Is there any way to make a statement in there that the director can use discretion that if it's known that there are a couple for an extended period of time, that it can be granted to that person?
I'd like to do on this one, because we talked at this for a while, so I will find a reference for you for prior discussion. I'd like to review that before rebroaching the subject.
Okay,
Okay,
because it can
was
get
a
difficult,
long
I get it.
conversation.
And Chair Cantrell, to that point, I hear what you're saying, but then you're going to have someone who just moved in with his or her boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yeah.
And they're in love, but they've only been living together for 6 months. And they're going to say, I'm just as committed to my partner as that 20-year person. Why are you giving it to the 20-year person and not me, right? And so now what's management going to do?
That's complex. I get it.
So
Yeah.
let's, I'd like to try to find that, because it was probably 20 minutes of conversation. It wasn't a light conversation. I remember, because I think you had a personal, experience where it applied, and I think the resolve was good, so let me try and find that for you. Okay,
That sounds good. Although I do see this language about full-time resident in the employee's household immediately preceding the death, which might capture what we're looking for.
Okay.
Where was that at? I missed that.
The last
Oh, I see it. Okay.
phrase. yeah.
Or the employee spouse.
Yeah, I think that's how the best we could do to get to that thing is if they're a full-time resident in the house. But to try to call out what that relationship was is hard to do.
so I think I messed this up a little. We were on 1, and I think we were good on 1, right? And we're good on 2, and then 3.
2, I'm good on 3. You guys good on 3?
I'm good on 3.
Section 7, leaves of absence, subsection E, military leave.
I'll save you time. This is pretty much all statute.
I'm good with all of that.
Let's not mess with it.
I think I've skimmed that.
Veterans
Good with
leave
that.
included?
Yeah, this is all, there's some state law, there's some federal law, it's all mixed in here, just as it's supposed to be, so.
How about jury leave? As it should be?
No, jury leave is, we're required to let them go. The question is, shall we pay them or not?
Oh. Well,
See, this is,
we
okay.
pay them?
Well, jury duty, I think, what is it, $15 or $20 a day is what they pay? If you get selected, it's crazy. Yeah, I think
Oh,
they
I
should be
think they
paid.
should pay. It's a civic duty.
Yeah.
I think
But
jury
it's-
duty should be paid.
But it's, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've actually had to go in.
Yeah.
I've never really got to serve, which really upsets me. I actually want
Yeah.
to do it. But just to go through the experience, honestly. But I know that there are some trials where they have to be in there for more than 3 days. Are we saying to pay them while they're out for that full period?
Well, let's ask other opinions of the city city manager and Megan. I mean, is there a threshold that's included in this for,
It's my personal opinion that if they're doing civic duty and we're a government, we probably should let them do the civic duty and pay them. That's my personal opinion.
I also agree with that.
Agree with that. Mr. Gomez?
Does the city currently pay for jury duty?
We
I
do.
believe so, yes.
Let's do it.
What if it extends for months? Same thing? Same thing, I agree.
Or so.
Even more so.
Even more so,
Okay.
because nobody can afford to live
Okay.
off what they pay.
You don't want them to lose their house.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all aligned, so
Yeah.
I think that's easy to,
Is that, what I don't know is that actually written in here that it covers that?
what's F2? Paid leave hours are considered as compensation purposes.
The, under item 4, Mr. Ashenfelder, I know we said we'd do this a different way, but I want to make sure, the item 4, for jury leave, section F, he or she shall inform the department director report to work as required in paragraph 4 above. I think that's supposed to be paragraph 3. Just, it's probably just a change in.
Yep.
That was one of the notes I made.
So did you find, is it covered, what's the language that addresses us compensating them? Is that two?
Look at 6. I'm going to read 6, guys.
Okay.
So item 6, this is, I think there's going to be a concern here. Employees who have a normal work schedule outside the regular business day, night or weekend shifts, who are summoned for jury duty during the business day immediately following the shift, the scheduled shift shall, if they request, be permitted to be excused from their work schedule shift or portion thereof immediately prior to the jury duty day in order to rest or otherwise prepare for their jury service. However, such excuse period shall not exceed 8 hours, and where an employee requests to be excused from work for a portion or all of a scheduled shift, where does that go? The employee shall not be compensated for that shift or portion thereof not actually worked unless vacation leave is used, but shall only be compensated for jury duty equal to the number of shift hours missed performing such duty.
In other words, the overall F is making the employee whole if they're summoned to jury duty. So 1 says, if you are summoned to jury duty, we will excuse you, which we're required to do, and you will receive jury duty pay, jury leave pay, for hours actually performing such duty, but not exceeding their scheduled work hours. So if you are a normal scheduled 8-hour employee and you have to go to jury duty for that whole day, you get 8 hours. But the point is, if you do not have to do jury duty that whole day, like for instance, sometimes you come in on that first day, you go to a big meeting room, they check you in, blah, blah, you're out of there by noon. You don't get to take the rest of the day off, get your full 8-hour shift paid while you go home and watch soap operas. You need to come on back in and go to work. At least that's the way it's written.
Yeah, understood. Okay. Any questions, guys? Is everybody ready to move on to section 7, leaves of absence? Item G, witness leave. Okay. The item 2 is the only one I have concerns with is what if the employee who voluntarily appears? So that means if an employee is not the person who's in the arbitration based upon the appeal, all right? but yet there's a different employee that they've called to be a witness, would they be subpoenaed as a witness?
Yeah, so what 2 gets to is you haven't been subpoenaed by either party. You are just voluntarily showing up to testify against the city. And so, at least as it's written, if you're voluntarily appearing, then why would we be paying you?
Would the employee be paid if they're subpoenaed to be a witness?
Yes. For the other side, yes, because
Yeah.
they're compelled. That's part of their civic duty. This is simply if I choose
Okay,
to
all right.
come and undermine the city.
Would that be like a whistleblower, like if you know something and they came forward, is that what you're
Pardon?
saying? Would that be like, they're not subpoenaed, but they know something, and they wanted to come and say something, would that be like a whistleblower?
This is
or-
just for a trial. This is an actual trial or a quasi judicial hearing, not a go tell management about a whistleblower thing.
No, I mean, do they know something about the case? Is that, maybe that's why they're going? They seen
that may be,
something?
that may be why they're going, but doesn't mean that we have to pay them. And really, it's solved by, if they want to testify against us, but they want to be paid, they go tell the plaintiff, subpoena me so I can be paid. That's how it, and as a litigator, I'll tell you, I'm not going to rely on a voluntary witness. I'm going to put even my people under subpoena, because I want them, sometimes people get cold feet, so almost every witness is going to be under subpoena anyway, but.
Okay,
They may be in favor of the city, to help the city.
you're gonna, basically, that just compels them to be there, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any questions on any of the other items. Does anyone else?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
So we're going on to Section 7, leave of absence, item H, disability leave. Is this legal, or is this open to discussion?
Some of it is a mix of workers' comp and some of it is policy, so go ahead and hit me with whatever questions you have, and
For me, item D, the first sentence is an employee who is released to light duty by the workers' compensation primary care provider may, at the discretion of the city department director, be assigned to perform other than his or her regular duties during recuperation. Can you put in accordance with section, and this may have changed when I made my notes, it's section 7.b.11. That may have changed. Okay, we're 20 minutes. 7B.11, I'd have to look. I made a note on it in mine.
so just a cross-reference?
Yes,
Okay, I got it,
yeah, just a cross-reference, that's,
understood.
yeah. So basically what I'm asking there, add a cross-reference, correct? Okay,
7B11.
yes. And that may not be correct right now because we've changed stuff,
I'll verify it.
yeah.
We have risk management staff administer, risk management staff? Do we have risk management staff? And do we need, is it a hard stop at 20 minutes, Commissioner Control?
20 minutes,
Right
let's
now.
finish this item here, and then if you wouldn't mind, if we could try to run through things that are pending to see where we're at, or the things we need to address.
You guys.
To
Are you,
overlook
okay?
it.
Do you need to leave right now?
6:15 is when I would need to leave, yeah.
Okay.
I've got to be at Reddington Beach at 6:30.
Do you guys want to wrap it up here, come back? When we come back, we start with section 7, leaves of absence. H, disability leave. Item 2, short-term disability leave, reasonable accommodation, fitness for duty exam. Is it okay if we return to that? Yes. Okay. Is there any other questions for items under 1, workers' compensation, items A through F? Are there any other questions?
Was there an answer to the risk
B,
management
yes.
staff question?
H1B, the city's risk management staff administers all workers' compensations, claims, and benefits.
Right, and so that's a more of a generic term.
Sure.
It's going to be a bit of our paid employee staff, and then it's also going to be a bit of workers' comp is administered by our workers' comp insurance carrier, and so they've got staff that also are involved. So collectively, that's what I'm calling risk management staff.
Who would be the people involved with that? Would it be the city manager? Would it be human resources?
It's probably you now, right?
It is. It's partly me, and then I also work with Karen in finance, and she does the payout portion of the workman's comp, but I do the paperwork.
But
Can
then
we-
but then you also have our providers
Correct.
that also
Yes.
have roles as well.
Can that be readdressed to say the cities, can you say it would be
Such as, yeah.
such as human resources?
Parentheses
That way
or
it can-
commas. Yeah.
It allows you the freedom to do the things you have to, but it gives us a reference to who these people are.
Yeah, so that, or somebody who wants to know who I talk to do my my
Yeah.
claims and benefits, who do I talk to? So I would suggest we add something that alludes to who.
Interesting. Off to the side, I have a little subnote on that. I didn't even see it, so I'm glad you said that. I had the same question.
Reader,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, I'm good to close down there.
Okay. Future agenda items. Are you guys okay to talk about that? That's on the packet that was sitting on the desk as soon as on the dais when we walked in. All right. Ordinance 2023-06 is where, in one meeting, we asked for that to be recalled so that we'd have an opportunity to look through it again. I personally would like to finish going through the policy before we try to tackle that, because some of this amendment to the civil service rules directly relates to the policy. So I think we need to get those done before we address it. Is everybody all right with that?
Fine by me.
Okay. We're addressing right now classification B, that's being addressed. That's, the RFP is going to be issued, so that's done, right? As far as we're concerned right now.
I would keep it until completion, right?
I'd keep it till
Yeah,
completion.
we've
Yeah,
made progress.
RFP is in process as of today. C, pay plan, same thing, that's in process as of today.
Okay.
Methods for determining merits and fitness for candidates and appointments and promotions. We addressed this a little bit in some of our discussions on making sure that an employee, when they're being promoted, that they actually meet the requirements of the position. Does anybody do you want to leave this on here, or do you want to come back and readdress this after we finish the policy? But before we release the policy?
I think, is the RFP, the consultant supposed to take care of the job description part?
Actually,
maybe?
that's in the RFP as well. No, it's not. Merits for fitness for candidates for appointment promotions, that's not in there. But we did address this in the policy, I think on the last time we.
Yeah, I made the edits. They're in your red lines that you got.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Take it
make,
off?
I would like to verify where the red lines are. I'm just making a note that it's in the red lines. Is, on the next meeting, can we talk about this to figure out if we're gonna take it off?
Sure. Is it possible to just, to have Clara just update next to these? Is that probably, like add notes to these?
In RFP process?
Yeah, just
For
say
D?
in progress so that we
Am I
remember.
taking out D, or is that gonna be addressed in in the personnel policy?
Can we verify where it's at in the red lines, and then next meeting in March, we will discuss removing that?
Okay.
Just to make sure that everybody's in agreement that, yes, this is addressed.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes,
I'd say verify red line or something
Yeah.
similar.
got that,
Red lines,
policy.
verify March 7.
Okay.
Okay. Grievance procedures, including procedures for hearing grievances, which may render advisory opinions based upon city, this is addressed. Correct, Mr. Eschenfelder?
I apologize.
E, grievance procedures, which is the appeal process, that's been addressed with the city at this point, with the
Right, well,
POC.
we did
the
the
workshop.
workshop, and so that will be baked into the ordinance that goes forward at the same time that this policy goes forward.
Is everybody okay to remove this? Because that was the joint meeting we had,
Yeah,
so we can remove E. Implementation process for making sure that all rules, regulation, procedures, of the employee personnel policy are working and is followed by everyone. That's really
way
our,
down.
That's in
we
your
have to come
rules.
back
Yeah,
after.
that's at the end.
Yeah, at the end. Department-specific rules, I know, Mr. Gomez sent us a whole bunch of the policies. I think you stated that it was an example. Are those the actual policies that the departments are following? I know this email's
Those
old.
were actual policies.
Actual policies. Okay, at some point, and I'm just making a comment for it, at some point I'd like to review those, because when I look at those in whether you call it standard operating procedures or policies, policy to me is something that's overarching and is respective of every employee. Standard operating procedures are specific to a department. And when I look at a lot of those, when I look at all of them, there's no standardized process. But that's me being nitpicky. It drives me nuts.
I'm sorry,
They
a
don't look the same.
standardized process for,
No, the way it's formed, when you set up like an SOP or policy or something like that, and you have an entity like this, you go from one department to next, you want them to look the same. So you understand that this is, not, they don't have to be the same words.
Formatting. He's
Format,
talking about
just the format, that's all.
I would recommend that we come back to that
You need
kind
to
of
come
thing
back to
at the
that,
end.
because
Yeah.
this, when I look at those, and I'm just making a statement, to me, they look like an SOP, not a policy.
but again, your only charge is related to the personnel policies, not departmental
But-
operations.
But the way it's read inside of the policy right now, the personnel policy says that the department can write their own policy to go along with it. So we need
And,
to,
correct, but
we need to look at that and find out, is it really a policy that they're creating, or is it a standard operating procedure? And that's what I'm trying to address. We're not
just
there.
related to the personnel policy.
Yes. Not trying to tell them what they gotta do. We're not there.
Right.
We don't ever wanna be there. They need to determine what they gotta do. Robert's Rules of Orders, how do I turn that off? There we go. Okay, Robert's Rules of Order, is that something that we need training, that we can get training on? I know I've talked to you more than once on this.
I know it was brought up by the last chair. The item got added. We found the information in the Robert's Rules of Order about what ex officio board member meant, addressing the secretary. So it's up to you all what you want to do.
I know personally, I would really like to get the training. The problem for me is finding a time that doesn't interfere with work.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. I think that's all, every individual, whether you want to do it or not. I don't think it's required for us, right?
Yeah, matter of fact, we're going to be having another training on Robert's Rules of Order this year. We do it every year after the election.
Okay.
So probably,
Practice.
if you're doing that, you should just invite all
Would be for all,
subordinate
everyone.
advisory boards. and-
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
we
not
invited-
required to have any training on Robert's rules. There's no requirement in the charter or city ordinances. But if that's something you would like, we would offer that to all, to
Yeah.
the planning commission, the city commission.
Yeah.
Just have a training on Robert's rules of order if that's what you would
Yeah,
like.
we invite everybody. We invite all the boards. We just make it available
Yeah, you
to
already do
them.
that, yeah.
We do that, yeah.
That would be a great thing to
And they
offer.
sign in and,
We've had actual training on Robert's rules of order in the last 2 years.
yes, we have, we do it. Try to do it annually. Our local
You've got
class
10 minutes.
president,
Is
we have a
10
local
minutes.
president in
that
St.
what,
Pete.
sorry, is that what teaches you to do the approval and,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be good to know coming into this. I would encourage in the orientation packet, which might be on here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert's Rules of Order is actually, it doesn't matter, but
April.
basically, you start out by doing a first, a second, and then you start talking about it.
We try to do it in
That's-
April
so
or May.
it's- But we
Yeah.
don't do it that way, we do it at the end. So, all right, so employee satisfaction survey, and J kind of go in hand, employee termination survey, exit interview survey, those are realistically very similar, but those,
Combine.
that was gonna come through, I don't remember how we were gonna address that.
For me, I think some of these were items that we think are good to address in the future, but I would say let's find anything that's,
So this
I would
would be
like to hold off on all that until we finish
after
this.
personnel policy, right?
Yeah, for those, yep.
For those three.
Yep.
So IJK after personnel policy, HR director position, that's taken care
What
of.
does that mean? Just addressing the transition between,
Transition, yeah.
At completion of personnel policy or after it's adopted?
After it's adopted. I don't know, do we need, I guess at the end of when we're talking about the policy, we need to make a determination, do we want those included? But I don't, these are things we're trying to find out, so that way when we're making policy, future policy revisions, that we have something to look at to find out, is there things we haven't addressed that coming from the employee perspective? Not some employees are gonna be not happy and they're leaving under their own choices, but they won't be happy and give us information that's useless. It could happen, you know? We talked about the history of the Civil Service Commission. I know that's under the way, but that's not gonna be done until after personnel policy. I don't know what this offer letter is, review of offer letter.
You had requested to read that we provide you copies of the letters that we give each employee that is hired, because we do not offer any contract to any employee except the city manager in terms of actual employees. We have agreements with our city attorney, with our finance director, city treasurer, but there are no contracts or other agreements with any employee except the manager. We simply provide an offer letter. You are hired. It lists what your start date is, salary, benefits, et cetera, upon contingency of passing the final hiring requirements.
I believe you sent us a few of those, haven't you, Mr. Gomez?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, okay, that was you, thank you. I thought I saw those. Okay, and then document control is something we brought up, where we're trying to make sure that we understand what revisions we're looking at. Because the changes that are made, there's been changes made, and it's hard to figure out where was this and what
I
happened.
think we addressed that, didn't we? I think document control's been handled because we said that was one that I believe was the origin that you're saying, but that I would say is off the list unless
You guys okay with
document
that?
control, I believe, is handled.
Addressed, all right? So we're removing O. All right, does anyone else have any concerns before we adjourn the meeting? Mr. Gomez?
No, thank you.
Mayor Rostack? You're good? Nothing? Mr. Ashenfelder?
No, sir. We're making progress.
How about you?
No, sir.
Ms. Van Blargen? Anyone up here?
Prepare for the next meeting and get the agenda packet.
Okay, thank you. Meeting's adjourned at 6:09 PM. Thank you, everybody. See you in March.
See ya, thank you.